This one's for the culture. Me and wifey in the room thinking of a master plan, thinking how we can influence the culture from where we stand. Knowing that our steps are ordered by the master's hand, still 10 toes down, we ain't switching up the stance. The mission of this music ain't just to make them dance, trying to tell them about the rock, cause they build.
And welcome to the latest episode of the Bond Chronicles. This is episode 58, and I am Mr. Bond Chronicles, and I'm excited to be here with my host,
Mrs. Bond Chronicles.
And we are getting into some good stuff on this episode. Hopefully you had some time to sit down and get some of our Coachella recap. I am still banded up. At some point I may take it off, or I may never take it off until I go back to another Coachella. No one knows. We'll just have to see. But still enjoying it. The second week just wrapped up last night. We noticed some big differences, so we may get into that later this week. Keep that notification on. But ultimately, we're here to talk about, I hope to be, some fun stuff. But we will definitely see. How have you been?
I've been good considering everything that's going on outside of our podcast. And I think I say this frequently, like we've been good, like through the last year or so, like pandemic, all that, like none of that has really touched us. It's just everything outside of our house is crazy, man.
Yes, it is. So we gonna get into some relationship talk because that's always exciting. And we're going to hopefully have similar views, but maybe we won't. We will find out here shortly.
Okay.
So the first thing is a post that I saw that's been floating around the internets, and you know we have some special people in the world. And so the internet, with a quick Twitter search, shout out to Elon Musk and his bid to buy it. I support it. I think it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But there was a gentleman by the name of Johnny Rain. If that's not how you pronounce it, my bad. I don't care that much. Tried my best. And he posed a question, or it was a scenario, actually. And ultimately, the internet ran with it. And so if you haven't seen it, I will try to put this up on YouTube. For our audio people, just listen closely. So it starts by saying, I ask this woman I've been talking to for a minute for $100. I get a what do you need it for ? When do I get it back ? A whole bunch of questions, LOL. I planned a trip for us in the mountains in Colorado for 4 days. Hotel costs $200 a night. Whitewater rafting, $150 a person. Zip lining, $125 a person. Hot air balloon, $250 per person. SUV rental, $80 a day. Not to mention food costs. I had all this covered. Just canceled everything and got my deposits back. I didn't need the $100. I was just saying what type of response I'd get if I asked for it. I didn't ask when do I get my money back when I was planning the vacation. I was just handling business. People don't think long term, and the trigger here is test failed. So my question for you, my strong black queen, how do you feel about people testing one another during the dating phase?
That's such a loaded thing. Because on one hand, like I get it, you want to see if the person that you're interested in is going to measure up to your expectations. But then on the other hand, it's like most of those tests or the things that people do to quote unquote test people, you're typically setting the person up to fail the test. Like, did she know that you had just paid for all this stuff for the trip? It doesn't matter if she had known that you had just paid for all this stuff on the trip.
Mm-hmm.
What is her financial situation like? Is she someone who's super trusting with money? Because if she is, then she'd have just gave you the money. If she's someone who's not very trusting with money, she's going to ask. I think anybody, generally speaking, if it's more than like $20 and you ask me for $100, I'm going to ask you what's it for. That doesn't mean I'm not going to give it to you. There was no, I'm assuming just from the, the picture or the caption or whatever, she did not give it to him. She just asked all the questions. But I think it just depends on what you're testing them in or what the test is for. Because if you're looking for character flaws, if you're looking for something to be wrong with someone, there's always going to be something for you to find. You'll make something up, all that good stuff. So, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either.
So, generally speaking, I think testing is fine. I would also say, in this example, I don't believe he was setting her up to fail. I think he just asked for $100. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the internet, which there's a lot of women on the internet in these comment sections. Most of them said he didn't actually have a trip planned. He was just being cheap. This is his easy way out. I push back on that because she very well could have said yes, and it's been a non-issue. So that was, I feel like that would have been a bad setup if that was his goal. The other part to this is he says, and this is where you kind of need context, I've been talking to for a minute. So I don't know what a minute is. In our culture, a minute could be a minute could be a day, a week, a month. I ain't talked to him in a minute, could be a couple years. So I don't know the context of what a minute is, but it at least seems like, and I don't think most men are comfortable asking women for money, period. So I would think if this was a test, which he said it was, they would have been together long enough that he felt he, one, needed the tester, and two, was even comfortable asking for that amount of money. So that's kind of my context that I'm taking away from the situation. And so I do believe as you get closer to maybe talking marriage, talking family, talking future, you might need to shake the tree a little bit, see what's underneath there. I think I would be terrified to marry someone who I've never had an argument with, because arguments can go a lot of ways, and people can say and do stuff in the moment that you had no idea they were capable of until you've seen it in action.
This is true.
So I'm not saying pick an argument on purpose or be manipulative, but I think there are life experiences that you should have with someone before you marry them.
So testing is the best way to figure those things out, as opposed to just having a conversation.
People lie. So yes.
Again, if you're worried about character flaws, mm-hmm. and the test is supposed to expose those character flaws,
or validate that they don't exist. I think that's the hope. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, and I don't know because I'm not a girl, but I feel like when a woman goes through a man's phone, mm-hmm. her hope is that she doesn't find something.
Oh, this is true.
Now, she might, and there might have been things that caused her to want to look or test him to see if he's been acting right. But I think the idea is, I went through whatever's been going on. Nothing. I didn't see nothing. Maybe then we can have a conversation about how he's been acting or whatever led her to make that decision. But I think the hope is nothing's there. I think his expectation was, I didn't spend, this is per person, so let's just throw a round number, say $1,000. I'm asking her for $100. We've interacted enough that she, I would think, knows my financial situation. He seems well dressed. It's a profile picture, so that doesn't tell you a lot. But I would think they've had enough of an interaction where she would know if he's asking for $100 and they're still together. It wouldn't be like the Tinder swindler. Like I don't think it was that scenario. So I understand her questions, and he says in a whole bunch of questions. I don't know what a whole bunch is. But outside of the first two, when do I get it back and what do you need it for? I don't really see what else you would really have to ask. Like, what else is there?
I don't think it's necessarily about what she's asking. Like, I think her questions would just be normal. Like, if you came up to me and I'd give me $500 or I need $500 and okay, well, what do you need it for? What's going on? Is there something I should be worried about? Like those are natural questions. And so if she thinks he's a financially secure person and out of the blue, he's asking for $100 and he's never asked for money before, I'm going to have a few questions. That does not mean I'm not going to give you the money. And that doesn't mean that the questions are automatically going to be like negative or whatever the underlying connotation that would, make you feel like it's negative. These are just genuine human questions. Why do you need it? When will I get it back? Like, I don't know.
So why and when, like I said, I get that. If you're starting to, like, if I give you an answer and now you're like questioning my answer, like, well, what happened? Don't you got a job? Ain't you about to get paid? Like, if it becomes that, then
right, and that's what we're saying. We don't know which way the questions went,
right?
But general context, I think they're mostly natural questions. Now, like I said, if it went left and she started to get disrespectful, I could understand why. He jumped the gun and canceled the whole little mountain excursion. But at the same time, I also feel like if you're looking for character flaws, there's going to be something deeper there that already makes you feeling insecure about this relationship.
Gotcha. So I'm glad you ended that way. So people, obviously, relationships are a risk. You never really know what you're going to get. Traditional people don't want to live with someone before they get married. Today's society, how you raise your kids, how you spend your money, how often you have sex. Like, there's just a ton of things that you have to deal with when starting a relationship. So my question for you is, we've heard and know people that have had this story where they've been engaged 5, 10, sometimes longer than that. And they never take that step. This newer generation of people typically don't go for that as much. They're either not interested at all or they're ready to move forward. So my question for you is, and I'll elaborate more and once we get your take, is what are your thoughts on giving actually use both scenarios. What are your thoughts on giving an ultimatum to your partner of a drop dead date or the relationship's over?
I don't know personally, because I think I've always operated under the assumption that people do what they want to do when they want to do it. If a man wants to marry you, he's going to marry you. If he, he's doing all the things, saying all the things, and he's, putting in the effort to make sure that you guys get to that point, typically it's going to happen. But when a man doesn't want to get married, you also know he doesn't want to get married. I mean, it's vice versa too for women, either way. So issuing someone an ultimatum, you're potentially setting yourself up for failure. Because if they do propose and you do get married, but they're resentful that you rushed them to do it, there's just so many things that can go wrong with issuing an ultimatum. I think the problem, what you really should do, again, is communicate about it. Like, if you just don't understand why it's not happening right now, then you need to have that conversation. If you're worried that it's never going to happen, you need to have that conversation. Like, there's so many words and things in between what you're thinking versus what I'm thinking. And I could think that we're on the same page. We're both ready to pick out rings and set a location and all of that stuff. Meanwhile, like, you're not even saving for a wedding yet because it's not even on your radar. Like, it's just too much room for error. And for conversations like that, I think there are a lot more important things to say other than, if you don't do this by this date, I'm out. On the other hand, if you are upset about the length of time that you're waiting and you feel like you're wasting your time, you don't have to issue the person an ultimatum. You can let them know this is how you feel, and then you can bounce and let them do with that, with whatever they will.
Wait, you said
dip out, bounce, because you're not having this conversation one time. You don't just wake up one morning and be like, "Oh man, I'm wasting my time here." These are thoughts that you're having, things that you're thinking about over a period of time.
So
you say something, and I'm sure you're saying something more than once. So by the time you get to the point where you feel like you have to issue an ultimatum, you probably should have already left.
Okay.
We've been together 10 years. By about year 5, I was probably looking like, okay, the ring's coming any day now.
You just made this.
Yeah, this is a scenario.
I was like, what?
Like, okay, year 5, ring's coming now. It should be here soon. Year 6, I'm letting you know, hey, it's time. Clock's ticking. We got to make babies. Like, year 7, you're annoyed, you're irritated, and you're pissed off. By year 10, what else? You know that I want to get married. I've expressed to you that I want to move forward in our relationship. It's not like an unknown thing. So by the time you get to the point, and that 10 years was just, general. Like, you can get to that in a year or however you operate. But by the time you get to the point where you would issue an ultimatum, you're already over it. Like, you love the person, so you want to be with them. So you're one last ditch effort to get them on the same page as you. But again, that could just turn out awful.
No. Well, I didn't know necessarily that you would go that route. I mean, I don't disagree. I think as a man, it would be nice to have a deadline. Like, work gives you a deadline. Like, life sometimes, like, is the due date. Something like life typically has time frames so that you know what you're working with. So just I'm working on it, and then life happens. Maybe somebody get pregnant, or somebody lose their job, or you get a job elsewhere, so you got to relocate. Like, stuff could just be popping up at inconvenient times, or somebody could cheat. Y'all could take a break. Like, a lot of stuff can happen that would, since you change the timeline that's in one person's head.
But even within that, you still need to be issued an ultimatum.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta, all sports, there's a time limit. Like,
I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
What do you mean? I think that's fair.
No, I agree that life happens. Things happen. Like,
and I'm not saying that to be 10 years. It could be, we've been together a year. My goal in my life is to be engaged and married by this. We're going to work towards that. That's the only reason I'm dating you. If we get close to that and we ain't close,
then I'm out. So how is that any different from what I just said?
Because at least the other person knows what time frame they're operating with.
But
you're saying we just been together. We keep having a conversation. And then, you know what? I'm over it. After 10 years, I'm like, you ain't leaving now. You've been there 10 years.
Fine. Even if it's just a couple of years. Most people now are very vocal about what they want from a relationship.
You think so?
Yeah, at least a lot of the women I know. Men, maybe not.
Nah, I don't know about that. Because I know a lot of women that be playing mad games.
I'm not saying that they're not playing games, but they do know in their mind what they want, even ultimately from a relationship. But I feel like a lot of times they're telling dudes like.
But that's it. From my understanding, the new wave is don't date one person. Like date a bunch of different people. So if I'm in a relationship with this potential person, you're saying we talk about it every 3 to 4 months?
No, like we meet, we decide we're going to be in an exclusive relationship.
Done.
Somewhere within us deciding that we were going to be in an exclusive relationship, we've had a marriage conversation.
Before we did start dating?
Before exclusivity. Like, why am I going to be exclusive with you if I know that you have no intentions of wanting to share the same kind of life that I want? For all of that, I'll just keep dating around.
I feel like that conversation, and I think we've talked about this on this pod a long time ago. I agree with that. But I don't think most people are having marriage, kids, like in-depth conversations to get about us having kids.
Well, then there's the flaw in this entire conversation.
So you're saying before you commit to someone, you should know when they want to get married.
You should know that they want to get married.
Yeah, what their knowing someone wants to get married and
what their time frame is, like how they want that to happen. Like there's so many different nuances that go into just deciding to be in an exclusive relationship with someone. But those conversations should happen. One, because okay, we're exclusive now, but we never talked about, I don't know, how many kids we would have, how many kids you'd like to have. You only want one. I am firm on I want 5.
You know what the silly part of that is?
What?
You know how many people say they want to have a lot of kids until they have a kid?
Look, I'm just saying, like, these things break up relationships all the time. Because people don't talk about it before they get in the exclusive relationship. Then they spend 4 years, however much time with someone.
I don't know if that's saying it's take 4 years to have that conversation, but before we even become exclusive, that seems pretty forward.
If we're talking
by today's standards,
if we're talking about being exclusive, we've at least been talking for at least 3-4 months, minimum 6 months. Boom. So at least a little bit about me and know my life, my expectations. So we're getting to the point where we're talking exclusivity. We're talking about commitment and long-term goals and. Do you want a house in the city or in the suburbs? Like, those are the conversations you start having.
Okay.
So, a year into the relationship, the exclusive relationship, and I don't start to see any of the stuff that we talked about, I'm keeping my eye open. 2 years into the relationship, no hint of an engagement ring, no nothing. Is everything going well? Every year after that, you're thinking, okay, what's going on?
But in your mind, you have a dead stop,
right? And
so why not
communicate it? If you haven't communicated that, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Right, but if you do communicate it and still nothing, then
you're good to go.
Yeah.
So I'll say this. So if you get to say. The goal is 5 years. But 5 years when you be down the aisle, moving on with our life. Mm-hmm. If 5 years hits and it's not there, and then 6 months later you come home and the house is empty, that's on you. Because it exceeded the time, and you were just on borrowed time at that point.
Right.
But if there was never a 5-year thing, it was just like, yeah, this is something that's important. This is something I want to do. And we don't really come to if you don't do it by then, I'm out. That's a very different conversation. I really want this to happen versus if you don't do this dead or not. That's different.
So then, quick question. Because when we first started dating, we said we'd give it a year to see what happens, all of that good stuff. So, I know how everything turned out. But if we had gotten to the end of the year, would you have asked me to get married then, or what would have happened?
No.
So what was the plan after that?
To see if we were going to like stay together, not getting married. A year,
I mean,
especially with the year that we had like 2 months.
Yeah,
that was nuts.
Yeah.
So at the end of that year, I would have had a much better idea of where we stand. I'd have known your finances better. I would have known how you handle adversity better. I would have known how. I would have known your situation, me integrating into the blended family. Like it would have clarified a bunch, assuming no one gets pregnant. So that was really what the year was, because we had the friendship and we didn't know how we would be in a relationship, and you're away and I'm away, and those ways may not be great because I never dated a lot of people because I didn't want to date. But when I would date, most people I dated were my friends first. And then we would date. And then it would go bad. Because dating me is very different from being my friend.
No, yeah, I can attest to that, right, guys.
So that's really what the year was, really for you to figure out who you're getting, and then for you to understand that I am going to be different to the woman I date versus just people I talk to. Mm-hmm. But no, we were not getting married after a year. Unless she got pregnant. And then we did, like 6 months, something like that.
Yeah. And here we are. Our anniversary is coming up, which is crazy. 3 years. 3 years.
3 years and 4 kids. Exciting times. So another situation came up at a Lil Durk show. And for those of you who may not know, Lil Durk's one of the hottest artists currently going around. He had a new album, 7220. I really enjoyed it. Different than I expected, but needless to say, he was doing a show the other night, and hopefully he's coming to Broccoli Fest. But hopefully I will be able to catch him at some point, because he was not at Coachella, unfortunately. And the shows look dope. But he stopped this show and he called out a fan. And the fan was a man. And basically, from Durk's perspective, the man was trying to fight a woman. And later, after he kind of berated dude for a little bit, he didn't understand. It happened on the woman that the guy was with went on social media. And her explanation was, no, this girl attacked me and her friends tried to jump me. And my husband, or boyfriend, I don't know what exactly they were, stepped in to like assist. So my question for you is, and I've seen this go a lot of different ways. We're not going to get into the Will Smith and Jada thing, but does a man have to fight another man if that man physically disrespects his wife?
Short answer, no. You don't have to fight anybody who's disrespected me. Long answer, if I feel disrespected and it's warranted me enough that I am looking like I'm going to physically attack someone, then that's probably when you should step in. Like, I think that's general rule of thumb.
Is it different for if a man offended you or a woman offended you?
I don't know. It's not. I mean, well, I wouldn't expect for you to hit a woman. And then again, I don't expect for you to hit a man. I wouldn't want you to just start a fight just because somebody tried to hurt my feelings. For grown-ups, like, it's not that serious. But like physically disrespected me, yeah. Like, yeah. Like, you got to handle that. But it's the same. Like, I would not stand by and let a woman physically disrespect you. Like, I saw a video of like some baseball fans up in the stands, and like they were fighting or whatever, and the woman reaches around the other chick and like slaps the crap out of her husband or man or whoever. For us, that woman would have got pushed down some stairs or something, because that's just not what you do. You don't reach around me and physically assault my partner and think that you're just going to sit back down and watch the baseball game. Like, that's not what we're going to do. obviously I'm not advocating for violence because violence is never the answer, but sometimes people are super disrespectful, and a lot of times, unfortunately, people only understand that they've been disrespectful when they are disrespected back. So, yeah.
So, by that premise, if your man defends your honor and he squares up and he gets knocked out, what do you do with your man then?
You know, you just take him home and love on him because he tried.
Okay.
He tried. Yeah. I mean, and then you're not allowed to make jokes or anything either because it's your fault that he got knocked out. But yeah, you know, you just handle it. Jump in if you have. No, let's not do that. And I don't know, maybe I'm not grown up enough. I haven't matured enough in that avenue. But there's just no world where I'm going to watch somebody attack you. Or you be in a fight and I'm just standing there watching you get beat up or something.
That was going to be my follow-up question.
Yeah.
Is when your man starts fighting and you see he starts to lose.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you take no L by yourself.
Fair enough. So in all seriousness, I don't know. I'd have to be in the situation. I've been in a couple of situations with my dog and another dog, and I reacted in a way I probably didn't actually think I would have, more aggressively than I thought. I know growing up, I reacted violently to just the thought of aggression. That didn't have to be aggression. Part of that was drug and alcohol aided. But in today's world, if it was me, you, and our kids and we're out, and some guy walked up
the kids are, I mean, you got to act like you got some sense in front of your kids. But even still, I'm not about to just watch you get beat up. Put the kids in the car and come help you.
By the time you get all of our kids in the car, it's over. One way or the other, it's over. A 30-second fight feels like an eternity.
Yeah, it do.
So for me, it's tricky because I'm at a new point in my life where I'm not up, but I'm up. And if somebody disrespected you, but the end result was that I went to jail and then the bills couldn't be paid. Lord have mercy, it's raining in here. Or I got beat up in front of my kids. Or I just feel like there's so many bad, even if I win the fight, which I'm pretty confident. I haven't fought in a long time, but I'm still pretty confident in my ability to fight. Even if I win the fight, it's like you win the battle, but you lose the war. And
what's the war?
The war is cops and lawyer fees and suing and all the other reporting it to my job and just so many other things and potentially having to go to court and get subpoenaed. And there's just so many other things versus continuing to walk and swallowing. And what it becomes, it's pride because someone disrespected me. Disrespect is a pride thing. Jesus is the example for us to follow, but he was perfect and I ain't. So I would have to be in the moment at this point in my life because my thought would be, you just got to suck it up because we got too much to lose for this loser of an individual. I'm not really a huge fan of calling the police, but it would need to report the assault potentially as an option. Not really. And the guy's probably not going to stick around to give us his name, but it's just a lot more to weigh. And I actually saw this on Kevin Samuels' episode, and most women responded like you did. And I'll briefly bring up the Will and Jada thing because most women said that was right. And a lot of men did too. But I don't think people that are in that gap between I have stuff to lose that I can't afford to lose. Mm-hmm. I don't know that those people respond the same way. The people that ain't got nothing to lose, the baby, he good. Like, you getting pause. If you're up like Ye or Diddy or somebody super wealthy that you can pay the lawsuit, pay the fines, you got lawyers on retainer, you can act up. But when you're a single parent, potentially, that has custody of your kids, like, there's a lot of situations that you can't risk your livelihood over disrespect, physical or not. So for me, that all is the thought process. I also would say we went to Walmart one time and some dude took our parking spot and I was blown.
You were so mad.
And I refused, and he happened to walk right by us and I refused to keep my mouth shut. That could have went bad. I wasn't in fear because I'm not going to say that. But I wasn't worried. But it could have went bad. And I've gone a lot of places and when being annoyed, I say things that someone could take personally and respond.
And so to that point, we're both hot-headed people. Because there's been several occasions where we've been out or there's something going on. And like when we were getting off the plane, I think coming back from Coachella, that lady who was trying to like bum rush me to get to the front of the plane to continue to wait. So I just left my bag in front of her. She was so angry at me. And if she had said the wrong thing, like I'd have snapped. Yeah. And she would have felt away. And then it would have just gone from where it was going to go.
And now we can never fly again. Great. Now we're on a no-fly list. Because you beat up some old woman.
Because she was disrespectful to an extent. Like, I totally agree with you. Like, looking at it in mature, sound, simple logic, it totally makes sense to just walk away from everything. But you could catch somebody and that's the thing. You can catch somebody on the wrong day. Mm-hmm. Like, I have to fly down to Florida for my uncle's memorial service. If that lady was behind me on one of those flights,
while you have Kobe strapped to your chest,
oh yeah, I'll be by myself. So thank God for her. The baby's there to save her. Yeah, like it's just so many different reasons why people decide to snap or why you lose your, have a moment where your reasoning isn't the strongest. Some of us have shorter fuses than other, but God's working on that.
100%. So you mentioned obviously you are traveling, and I've mentioned on this podcast quite a few times, and I've seen it come up. I think I might have been in the marriage group, where men don't always have an outlet, and women feel like men don't open up enough. I hear that constantly being the case, that women want men to talk more. I believe men talk plenty. If you watch sports every day, there's men talking. You watch anything, men talk.
That is not the same.
Men love to talk. Fellas hang out. We enjoy talking. We even like being involved in y'all business and what y'all are talking about because it's entertaining. The problem is when we talk to y'all about our problems, that's when things go sideways. And a lot of times y'all be the problem. So it's hard to tell someone about my problems when they're the problem, or if later in life, women, because y'all are lovely individuals, but sometimes you're vindictive and will say things that were told to you in confidence or at a weak moment and use it against us. And most men don't forgive or forget that very easily. But my point being that if you don't have people to talk to, you might talk to your other friends. In a lot of cases, that might be a mother, it might be a father, which is the in-law to the person you're having the problem with. So my question to you is, how much, if at all, should you receive advice from your in-laws?
I mean, it's whatever your boundaries are in your relationship.
Who defines that?
You do.
You the individual or y'all the couple?
You the individual.
Okay.
You know what you would want to accept as far as, appropriate conversation or how much of your quote unquote business is out there. So I think that helps you kind of keep things in the parameters of where you're keeping those boundaries intact. Now, if you're running off to your in-law or whoever, and telling all your business every single time there's an issue in your relationship, one, you're not setting yourself up to have a long-lasting relationship because you're not talking to your partner about all of the problems. Two, people outside of relationships have longer memories than the people inside of relationships. We could have a problem today. You talk to my mom about it tomorrow. We get over it by Friday. My mom's still not happy 3 weeks from now because of that one situation, that is so far at the back of our minds, but your friend's family, they're still holding on to it because they didn't like the situation. So I think you have to be careful with how and how much you speak to people outside of the relationship. But generally speaking, I have no issue with it.
Interesting. So you said something that is interesting. I use interesting. So you're saying as long as you know the parameters that you're comfortable with talking to your in-law, that's fine.
Yeah.
So in theory, you feel as long as you don't cross the line that you're uncomfortable with, you could say something to, say, my dad about me, even though you don't know what line I didn't want you to cross.
Well, no, because as your spouse, I know what line we have a rapport.
But you don't, because we've had a situation where you injected yourself in a situation that you shouldn't have been in. And it did actually get to that other situation because it impacted an event.
So you're not speaking in specifics, so I'm confused. Like, I don't care. Like, you can just say it.
I mean, the situation was you were, in essence, and I believe this came because of the conversation you had, we're counseling me on how to handle a situation.
Mm-hmm.
That it was between me and I think it was my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So your in-law.
Yeah.
So even now, like, you talk to them really more than I do.
Right.
So my question is, you said because y'all have a relationship, you wouldn't cross a line that you felt uncomfortable with. But my initial question was, should we be in alignment? And you said no.
Yeah.
As long as you're good, you're going to have that conversation. Even though I may not want you to have that conversation with my dad.
Okay, I understand now. When you put it like that, then yes, I guess we should be there's something in my eye. We should be in alignment as far as like what you would want me to talk about or what you want your spouse to talk about, keeping it generally. But yeah, still within whatever those parameters, those boundaries are. If you have hard boundaries, then, but I think it's just dependent upon your relationship with your in-laws.
So that part I do agree with. But generally speaking, for me, and obviously we got a bunch of kids, so I'll probably have to live through this and probably won't like it because I understand the in-law perspective, specifically like mother and father-in-law, cousins and brothers and other, like, I guess those could become issues too, but I'm not really focused on them as much. But I feel like once marriage happens, I think that advice mostly dies. Leading up to that is like a dad with a daughter. I'm going to give her all the advice in the world I can. But once she chooses to marry said dude, it's hard for me to give her advice or even my son's advice because I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be giving them advice on what worked for me because I was married to you, and that woman could be nothing like you. So I could be setting them up for disaster. And I feel like, and we watched, and we'll probably get into, we have some TV shows we've watched. And so we'll get into one show, Ultimatum, where there was a time when the mom and I think the sister and the girl he was dating went out to dinner. And the advice that was given, I did not think was great advice. And the way in which that conversation went, that couple ended up not being together. Like the farthest apart. And I think when you have in-laws, specifically when they're starting to give advice and they're starting to dictate conversations, if y'all are having conversations together, I think that is a terrible recipe for disaster. And I think, like I said, once, even from a grandparenting perspective, I give you my kids, you follow my rules. I'm not asking you to parent my kids. I'm giving you my kids so that y'all can build a relationship and have fun. But you ain't about to start teaching my kids and exposing my kids and stuff that I don't want them exposed to. So I think there's roles that, as a parent, if me and you have an issue and you go to my parents or even your own parent for that matter, I think very often, especially if those people are, and I guess we can be transparent enough, none of our parents have successful relationships. I guess my dad's in one now. I don't know all the specifics of it, but
they've only been married for 13 years.
Just because you married, don't mean this is a success.
Okay.
And I don't know enough to speak on it, but I know a little bit. So I just think in-law parts. I think if you're going to get advice, the couple should come together, whether it's marriage counseling, whether it's a book, whether it's somebody. There should be an agreement on who y'all talk to get advice from. But I don't think in-laws should be those people.
I don't even necessarily think that it has to be a whole conversation. You can talk to your parents, in-laws, whoever, and then just happen to start talking about something going on and they offer some advice. I think the key, again, is how much information you're sharing and, the boundaries of the information that you're sharing. And then 2, the advice that you get, whether, use it if it applies to you. And if not, just go in one ear and out the other. I don't think it has to be a formality of, okay, well, we can talk to your mom and we can talk to my dad and this is the only advice that we'll talk. I don't think it needs to be all of that.
Okay. I'm good with that. Or good with you saying that. So speaking of parents, and I've heard this all my life, really. And in a lot of ways, I would say I avoided it. Maybe in some others, I didn't. But the idea that you should marry someone like your parent. So as a man, you always hear women say, I want to marry, for women that had present dads, I want to marry someone like my dad. Like he treated me like a princess, blah, 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 whatever he did, whoop-de-doo. And vice versa. Specifically, I think when men grew up with a single mom specifically, and that mom and them have a really good relationship, mama's boys, they want someone like their mom, maybe someone that will care for them, nurture them, lead them, whatever that is. So my question for you is, do you think it's ideal for you to marry someone like your parent, assuming they were a good parent?
I think yes, high level, because assuming, the parent who you're modeling your spouse after was a great, they would have to be, because you wouldn't want to model your spouse after some crappy person. There are qualities that were great as a father that translate great as a husband. So I don't think it's personality wise that's what you're looking for, but the characteristics and qualities of that person who obviously means a lot to you. You would want them to have those same qualities, your spouse to have those same qualities. Like you have a lot of the qualities like that my uncle had. You do actually.
Okay.
That's why I always thought that you guys would get along pretty well. Um, brain fart. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think that's a good way, to start with the list of things that you want in a potential partner.
So, do you think it is beneficial to voice that to your partner? So, hey, my mom did this, so I want you to do this. Or my dad treated me this way, so I want you to do this way. Or should you just be asking for things independent of that correlation?
You ask for things independent of that correlation. Like, it's a little
But
weird because it
if
starts.
that's what you want,
It
and
sounds weird. Like my mom, you coming to me. My mom, used to, I don't know, something weird. It's just
take care of me and give me all my medicine when I was sick. So I want you to give me all my medicine when I'm sick.
Yeah, and sing this special song and like that. That's like borderline weird.
Sing a special song. It's a little extra.
It's a little borderline weird. But if you tell me, you are able to make me laugh when I don't want to laugh, when I feel down, and really only my mom was ever able to do that. Like that, there's a difference in how you present those things.
Fair enough. Definitely felt like I should ask. So we went back to the internet, and we're going to try and incorporate more of these trending topics into some of our broadcasts. So another gentleman, Law Tutor, I don't think that's his real name because there's an @ that has a completely different name. But it says, even if a woman is paying for a date, she should always give the man her money beforehand. That way, he can appear to be paying for the date. This is literally basic manners. And the fact that some of you don't know, this is sad. Some of you women got your men out here looking weak, all caps.
That is the most absurd piece of wasted opinion I've ever heard. Like, it is completely idiotic. Why does it matter?
We've talked about this on the pod.
We have, and it's just so stupid. If I'm paying for, and because we never do this. When we go out and I pay, I just hand my card. Do you want me to start transferring money so that it appears as though you're paying for it?
So here's what I will say. It is awkward as a man for someone to come to get the bill and they look at you and then the woman hands them the card.
But it's awkward because of appearances. It's awkward
because he says some of you women got your men out here looking weak.
But if we know the reality of our relationship, why does it matter what it appears to look like from people who don't know us?
You could say that for like anything in a relationship.
But and I always
and
do.
Everyone
it's so dumb.
That's ridiculous. We could have an outfit that we like.
Yes.
And it looks awful.
Yeah.
And we're going to go out matching Adidas and Nike or something because we think it's cool. No, you don't wear certain stuff because of what other people are going to think. So if your kid...
So to answer my question, when I pay for food, you want me to start cash apping you whatever the bill is? Like, I don't understand.
So my point was, we go out, you pay, I deal with it. What I'm also saying is, for most men, including myself, it is awkward. And it feels a way when the woman hands the person the card. And it's not so much that she hands the card. It's, God forbid you have a woman waitress. Her look is just priceless. And then the guy is usually like, oh, my bad. Like, it's just awkward.
So
no, we're not changing anything. But what I'm saying is, yes.
But real quick. But you want women to take men out on dates and pay for them. Mm-hmm. But you still want the man to have the appearance of paying for the date even though he's found a woman who is like a diamond, in the middle of nowhere.
But we'll go with that. She's a whatever you said.
You are the worst. This rare woman who decides to pay for a date. Like, which one is it? That's ego. That's pride.
Yes, and the same way ego. You want us to fight someone that didn't assault me and they assaulted you. It's the same thing. Nothing actually happened to me. I was standing there. But now I'm going to fight this man when nothing was done to me. That's ego. So yes, they're both similar.
No, he hurt my feelings. That's totally different.
Yeah, but they're not my feelings.
You care about my feelings.
Yeah, in the same scenario. You care about my feelings.
I don't understand why you have feelings about me paying for a bill when you want me to pay the bill.
It's about optics.
Optics, okay.
You know how it looks.
No, I know how it looks. So from now on, you can just pay for everything.
No. Imagine our young son going to prom and the bill comes and he asks the woman to pay. There's nothing wrong with it. Or they split it. Technically, shouldn't be anything wrong. We're just friends. It's just prom. It's just a date. Whatever. But the optics to her, and when she goes home and tells her dad, he made me split our prom dinner, it's not going to go well.
All right, I'll just start cash apping you money then.
I keep saying we don't got to change. But I'm also saying it is awkward. So if you want to cash app you can't cash app because it has to be ahead of time. Oh, she's saying I pay and then you give it on the back. No. We're saying I'm broke. I can't afford to pay. Just give me the card.
Give me the card.
And I'll sign for it.
Okay,
and then when we get outside,
you can give me my card back. Okay. I see where you're going.
Where
you're going.
There you go.
And she's probably not going to look at it that hard anyway. It's our bond.
Yeah. And right now, I can identify as whatever I want. So
let's not go
Don't judge me as Robin. Okay?
Let's not go there.
Fair enough. So the last question that I have, and we're making good time. Thank y'all for rocking with us. Does no as a woman always mean no? And if it doesn't, how is a guy supposed to know?
It always means no.
That's what you're standing on.
That's where I'm standing.
So
there's a difference between no. Like you know what.
No. Don't assume that. That's exactly where I wanted to go. Because I've heard women argue all day. Men are weak. They didn't fight for me. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. They want to jump through a bunch of hoops to win your heart because you are the prize. But if you told me no, and I just, all right, cool. That's what men are supposed to do.
I'm confused.
So, let's see. We're out having a good time. Hookah bar. All that good stuff.
Pause. That is not a hookah bar.
That's not how you...
No!
Whatever they do. You have a stick thing.
Yeah, but what you did didn't look appropriate.
I'm content in who I am.
I know, it's cool.
Optics, is that what you're saying? Are you saying the optics are bad?
The optics look bad.
All right. So we go out, and a guy, relatively attractive guy, you're a relatively attractive woman, and he says, hey, can I buy you a drink?
Yes.
No. You say no because you're not interested.
Okay, no.
At that point, that's it. Any man that ever approaches you and asks you to buy you a drink, once you say no, should never ask you again.
I think you're talking to the wrong person here because I don't typically. Well, I used to not just turn down drinks. But if I had a reason as to why I was saying no, then yeah, you just no, thank you, and move right along, tiger.
Okay. So the confusing part for me is I've had scenarios where I told someone I felt. They ain't wanting to do with it. they were dead to me. Off the list.
Off the list.
Later in life, they've said, and actually, it's only happened. I think one person said, "Well, why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you try a different way? Why didn't you try a different approach?" And I've heard that from a lot of women that maybe the first time wasn't the best. You dust yourself off and you try again. So if it's no is no, then where does the other side come from?
People who are confused about what they want. Like, I can only think of maybe one guy who I played to the left because whatever reason I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then it actually turned out to, things turned out differently for the relationship I think that I was kind of in versus the other guy. But it's not, you should have done more to try to convince me. It's more of I should have been more open to the possibility of what that could have been. Like, it's not your fault that you can't read my mind and understand what it is that I don't even know that I'm looking for. I think that's typically what those people mean. Like, you tell me no the first time, all right, I'm gonna fall back. Like, and I think that's even a female thing. Like, I'm not gonna keep Steve Urkeling you until you decide that you want to love me.
But that's romantic. What Steve did was romantic.
It didn't get romantic until like the last season.
No.
And then when he created, and then he ended up creating a whole different version of himself.
Okay, we're getting off the track. My point is, the pursuit of a woman to win her heart is romantic.
It can be from the right person, but if you're just going around.
If no is no, then why is that a thing? Why is it romantic for some? Because as you just said, depends on the person. So why is it romantic for some and not all?
Because then I have more feelings for you than just a solid no. So, but even still in that, it's confusing for you.
Yes.
I'm telling you no, but at the same time, I still want you to keep trying. It's confusing.
Yeah.
I don't know why people do that, is what I'm saying.
Oh.
Generally speaking, if I tell a guy no, it means no, I'm not interested. No, I don't want a free dinner. I don't want free drinks. No.
No.
No means no. But if it's someone who it's like, he's cute and there's some potential there, then it's not a no. It's not this time. Maybe we can do something. And there's a difference. The nuances of flirtation is different.
So how do you know when you're being let down easy and when you're being told no?
That depends on the person who's doing it.
Because I can tell you, it's just like these home warranty people. And I tell them,
no, I'm not interested.
I'm not interested. And I'm like, oh, okay, so what about a year from now? Nah, I'm good. Or, yeah, I just got work done. I'm not looking to do anything. Well, what about in a year? No, not then either. Well, what about in 2 years? Listen, buddy.
Right. That level of persistence, it pisses you off and irritates you.
But when you don't come out and give them the hard, disrespectful no, they think I can keep asking.
No, that's not, I don't think that's how everybody thinks.
But what I'm saying, if you tell a guy, now it's just not a good time, that you could be saying, like, I have no interest. But he just heard, now it's not a good time. So he can come back later.
And then when he comes back later, if it really wasn't a good time, then you let him know, I'm not interested. Like I don't understand. You keep asking me the same question. For me, it's that simple. If I'm not interested, I'm not interested. And the sooner you get that I'm not interested, the better, so that we can avoid this awkwardness. Because that's all it is. Every time you have to reject someone, it's just awkward.
Yeah, I understand. It's never the same. Well, that is our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Always remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support this podcast, it's there at the bottom. We have just a ton of wonderful things on the horizon for you guys. So thank you so much for all of your support. And remember, in life, things happen. You have the power to choose what you do. Always choose wisely. And even more so, always bet on you. We appreciate it. You guys have a great evening.